Lesson 102. Well, in this lesson, we have something pretty important to talk about, and that is more about how to speak in the third person. When we talked about formal speech, we talked about using the word usted plus a third-person verb, and that's how we construct a formal way to address someone. But this whole concept of speaking in the third person, it doesn't just stop there with verbs. It's also going to extend into a lot of other situations, like, for instance, the word su. So far, we have used the word su to mean his, her, or its. So it's got a third-person sort of quality to it. But Antonio, why don't you explain to us a little bit about how this third-person word su is going to be used in formal speech?
When we speak informally, we always use the word your when referring to second person, as in your car, you're this, and you're that. But now we're learning this special formal way of addressing someone, usted. So besides the verb that goes with that second person pronoun, this formal second person pronoun, which is treated as third person, every time we want to use this your words in Spanish, instead of using the one you use for regular informal way, like tu without the accent, which means your, we use the same one that we use for his or her or its. So here again, we have this third person word that is really used for in a second person case. So in this example we have, usted va a la tienda, you go to the store, but it's really formal way of saying you go to the store. Con su familia todas las semanas, instead of saying con tu familia todas las semanas, tu meaning your, we use su meaning also your, but informal speech. So basically, su can mean either his, her, its, or your, but your only in the formal speech.
So at the beginning of the sentence, we have usted, and then we have the verb va. Mm-hmm. So we have usted, which is a special title of respect, and then we have a third-person singular verb. Mm-hmm. Later on in the sentence, if we said tu familia, that would be weird, because it would be like we're mixing together formal speech with an informal way to say something. If you said to someone, tu familia, wouldn't that be sort of an informal way to speak to them?
Yes, that would be an informal way to speak to them. So basically, you cannot mix half the sentence being formal and the second half of the sentence being informal. That would be incorrect. So if you're going to start the sentence using formal speech, you have to finish or use the entire sentence as formal speech, or treat the entire sentence as formal speech.
So you can't just mix and match. You can't have the first part of the sentence be formal speech and then halfway through switch to informal speech.
Exactly. So basically, there are three things that you change when changing from informal to formal. You change the pronoun, which is either changing it from tu to usted. You change the verb. You change it from vas to va. And there's this third thing, which is the possessive pronoun.
And that's the word su.
That's the word su. So to give you examples of what possessive pronouns are, is every time you use his, her, or its, their, or your. Or your. So those are possessive pronouns. So those three things you change. So in other words, don't use the pronoun and the verb in third person or formal way, and have the possessive pronoun in informal way, in the informal form. Those three things have to agree with each other.
Okay, Antonio, here's a little exercise. Let's just do this for fun. You know, we know that the word usted started out hundreds of years ago as vuestra merced, which means your mercy, right?
Yeah.
So just for fun, let's translate usted like that, and let's translate everything really literally in the third person. So if we did that, then this sentence here, it might read like this. We might say, your mercy goes to the store with his family every week. So that really reflects the third person character of it. Of course, that's not what we're really saying with it.
Yes, we are saying that. It's just that we don't say it like that anymore in English.
But that's the feeling of it. That's
the feeling of it.
That's
yes.
sort of the third person-ness of it that's being expressed by the third person title of respect, usted, the third person verb, and the third person possessive pronoun, su. The whole sentence has that third person sort of flavor to it.
Yes, yes.
But if you were really going to translate it into English, you would not say, your mercy goes with his family. Your mercy goes to the store with his family every week. You would say, you go to the store with your family every week. But it's interpreted by the listener as having a formal quality to it.
Yes, just remember this. Saying your mercy goes to the store with his family every week, you think of it as Old English. But doing that same thing in Spanish is not necessarily Old Spanish, and it's still good Spanish. It just means that it's formal Spanish. So in English, only one way of saying it. In Spanish, two ways of saying it.
So that's why we're using the word su here to mean your, is because we're taking a third person type of word and we're using it as a polite second person kind of way to speak to someone. Okay, let's take a look at our exercises. In number 1, we have formal speech. Usted and va together say, you go, but they're reversed because it's a question, so we'll translate va usted as, do you go? A la playa means to the beach. Con means with. And now we have the word su. Ordinarily, su would be a third person type word, saying things like his, her, or its. But here, it's in the context of formal speech. So it will be interpreted as a second person type of word. So it'll say your. So su hermana will say your sister. Todas las semanas means every week. So number 1 will say, do you go to the beach with your sister every week? In number 2, el hombre means the man, and the verb here is va, that's third person singular. So el hombre va will say the man goes. The word a means to, and then we have the word su. Here it is not formal speech, it's just regular normal speech. So su will mean his, her, or its. In this case it means his because it's talking about the man. So su trabajo will say his job. And todos los días means every day. So number 2 will say the man goes to his job every day. In number 3 we have more formal speech. Usted is a special title of respect, working along with the verb va. So usted and va together will say, you go. Al banco means to the bank. Con means with. And now we have sus, and it's plural because it agrees with the word hijos. Like I said in number 1, when you have formal speech, su and sus means your. So sus hijos, in this situation, will say your sons, or perhaps your offspring. And then todas las semanas means every week. So number 3 will say, you go to the bank with your sons every week. Or it could say something like, you go to the bank with your children every week. In number 4, we have a question, and it's a question that contains formal speech. We have usted and va together. Those two words together say you go, but they're reversed because it's a question. So we'll translate va usted as do you go? Al centro comercial means to the mall. Then we have con again, that means with. And then we have sus amigos. Again, the word sus here, normally third person, but in formal speech, it's going to be second person. So sus amigos will say your friends. Todas las semanas will say every week. So number 4 altogether will say, do you go to the mall with your friends every week? In number 5, nosotros bebemos means we drink. Agua means water, and todos los días means every day. So number 5 will say, we drink water every day. In number 6, we have a question, and the question has formal speech in it. Usted and tiene together say, you have. But since it's a question, they're reversed, and we'll translate them as, do you have? The word su, here in the context of formal speech, will be translated as your, and perro means dog. So number 6 will say, do you have your dog? In number 7, yet another question, again with formal speech. Usted and va together will say, you go. Here it's in a question, so we'll translate it as, do you go? Al parque means to the park. Con means with. Su, here in the context of formal speech, will mean your. Familia means family, and a menudo means often. So number 7 altogether will say, do you go to the park with your family often? In number 8, we have yet another question. Here we have the word ustedes, which, of course, in the Americas would not be formal speech. It would just be the only way, really, to address multiple people. Ustedes and hablan will say, y'all speak, but they're reversed because it's a question. Español means Spanish. So number 8 will say, do y'all speak Spanish? Another question here in number 9, this time with formal speech again. Usted and habla together will say, do you speak? Español means Spanish, and con sus amigos will say, with your friends. So number 9 will say, do you speak Spanish with your friends? In number 10, yo quiero means I want. Agua means water. Porque means because. And tengo sed is an idiom that means I am thirsty. So number 10 will say, I want water because I am thirsty.